Okay, Lynn, thanks for asking me down today. Just by way of explanation, introduction, my name is Paul Stewart. I'm the garden manager at Mount Stewart. My surname is a coincidence. I don't own the place. We have a lot of volunteering experts in the room today. My job isn't actually a volunteer manager or a coordinator. My job is as a garden manager. But my role involves working with volunteers. In fact, all roles in the National Trust involve working with volunteers, because the National Trust have realised that volunteering is good for business and for a lot of reasons. Just to give you a bit of background on the National Trust and their approach to volunteering before I talk about my own experience. The National Trust starts from a position of strength because we're one of the largest volunteering involving organisations in the UK, and numbers are growing year on year. We've introduced new ways of volunteering, notably family volunteering and an internship scheme. And they've both been recognised as fairly good examples of how to go out managing volunteers. A lot of properties actually have volunteer managers, which is a very useful thing. We haven't actually cracked that one yet at Mount Stewart, but it would be great if we could get someone to help with the actual management. The Trust have taken a policy now of devolving power down from central offices, whereas before you would receive diktats from headquarters. Now properties write their own business plans, and they have a lot of latitude to drive what your garden or your house or whatever your property is does in terms of the visitor experience, financial opportunities. But it's not do as you like. There is compulsory key performance indicators around a number of issues for all properties, and one of those is volunteering. We have a strategy of going local, which means we source all our materials locally, we use local contractors, but it also means involving the local community. With the Going Local paper as a backdrop, we have developed a national consultancy where every UK region has a volunteering consultant to feed into properties the national strategy, challenge property managers and in many ways force them to build it into their property business plan, to make sure that the community sits at the centre of the work that the National Trust do. So the Assistant Director, for example, would monitor property managers' outputs in the same way they would manage in volunteering, same way they would manage their financial outputs or the gift shop sales or member visits. So those things are benchmarked and checked. So volunteering is a compulsory part of what everyone does in the National Trust. We talk about triple bottom line, financial performance, of course, the impact we have on conservation and environment, which is the core of what we do as a charity, but also the value and benefit we deliver to our people, and our people are broadly our staff, our supporters, our visitors, our members, and our volunteers and local community. So we have a survey every year we give to all our volunteers, quite an extensive survey, and so we can quality check their experience and understand what's going on and then tweak things. So that has been a very useful tool. In essence, unlike maybe a lot of organisations that involve volunteers, we don't take on volunteers to do the work. Well, we do, but volunteering is also part of our work and providing a volunteering experience. So, our motto is forever for everyone, and it could very easily be forever for everyone by everyone. We view Mount Stewart, for example, is one of Northern Ireland's, one of the world's gardening treasures. We believe it belongs to the people. It's only under our custodianship, so we want to involve people in the management of it and the running of it and all the things that we do. One of the difficulties I found, I took over the job as garden manager there just over 2.5 years ago, and I found out that the National Trust wanted us to involve volunteers. So, panic, you get this sort of diktat, you have to involve volunteers. So I done exactly what Lynn talked about earlier, jumped to stage 4, get as many volunteers as we can in. We're being judged on this. And frankly, it was disastrous, because we had loads of people that came down, all full of enthusiasm, never didn't know what to do with them. So yeah, you're very right, and it is something probably a lot of people do. It has to be a mutual beneficial relationship. Volunteer involvement at Mount Stewart has generated great outputs for us. But by involving volunteers, it's not just getting the work done, it actually legitimises our place in the local community, because we've become a resource, our cultural resource in the broadest sense. So there's the culture in terms of, the heritage and the garden and the collection that we have in the garden. But then we're also a community resource as well, where people can learn, they can engage in the property, in the conservation of the property, and improve their skills as well, for themselves as much as for the property itself. So it has to be two-way. And once you get that going, it becomes self-perpetuating, because the continuation of volunteer involvement depends on the quality of the volunteering experience. There's one of our gardeners lying down in the job, being carried by volunteers, and it's a metaphor. So we work with other organisations as well. The local college is one, for example. This is one of our volunteering posters, which we have up in the reception area. To find out what other organisations want or what they need, or can we assist them in what they do. For example, students of horticulture would be an obvious one. But it's not always students. I mean, we do traditionally, we've drawn our audience from retired people. Retired people, highly skilled, aware of the organisation, active in their local communities. But it has tended to be older people. And we've done a bit of research now, and we found that there was a perception that volunteers in the National Trust could be cliquey. And one newspaper article described, it was very positive about the Trust, but described our room guides as dragons. Yeah, we wanted to change things. We wanted to shift perceptions. We wanted to loosen it up, involve a wider range of people. So we started to go into new groups. We contacted schools, colleges, went to fairs, shows, job centres, told people what we could offer them, and we completely changed the demographic. The situation now is we've retained all of our older volunteers. One or two have left, but we've more than doubled our volunteers. We introduced a scheme or an internship where people who were unemployed could apply for a role, and we had a role description, and stay for 3 months, working 9 to 5 in the gardens. For that, they get free passes, they get a certificate in garden maintenance, and one of the great satisfying parts of this was a lot of them, after their 13 weeks, stayed on. 2 volunteers that I'm with here have been with us now for 2 years, so I think that says a lot, and they stay for so long. As mentioned earlier, we do have very strict role profiles, but like a job, it's binding in honour only because it's a volunteer role. We invite interested applicants to come and interview. We have an informal interview with them, because we have to manage their expectations, because a lot of people come and they expect it to be something other than that it is, and we do turn people down, or people decide that it's not for them, and I think that that's important, because the last thing you need is someone come along thinking they can do what they want without any direction. It sucks up your time, it's a waste of their time, and it's a disappointment for them. So you have to manage their expectations. So an interview and a role profile is a good thing to do, I think. Yeah, our internships last about 3 months, but people do tend to continue on longer than that, and even those that stay the 3 months, you can say that it has improved their employability, if we're talking about unemployed people. It became evident to me that a lot of them weren't getting jobs because they weren't very good at interviews. And one of the great benefits was to see that their confidence improved and their ability to communicate, and it was good that they were mixing with our older volunteers, and we had school people, we had unemployed people, but completely across the age range. And it was very satisfying for me to see them involved in that, and even step outside their comfort zone. A lot of the gardeners, a lot of them came from the building trade, because there's a lot of work has died off in that sector. And they came into the garden and they started to take an interest in gardening and expand even into working at events, participating at events well outside their comfort zone, even getting involved with entertainment, dressing up for Halloween. We had a Halloween event there, and I have to say the whole atmosphere in our property, it's now really good crack and good mix of people. Yes, see some of them here. Our garden is now in the best state that has been in the past 10 years. That is probably due to the amount of volunteers we have in Mount Stewart. There have been a lot of roles that have come up as a result. Our visitor figures have increased. Our standards have improved. 155,000 visitors last year, which is the largest we've had in the history since the National Trust took over in 1957. That has generated more income, which has generated jobs. We have taken on 9 new members of staff. All 9 of them were ex-volunteers from our long-term unemployed. So to counter the allegation that volunteering takes jobs, in our case it's actually created a better environment for us, for our visitors. It's improved our business and actually created jobs. So just briefly, my experience of volunteering at Mount Stewart is connecting us to our local communities. It has helped us reach new audiences, bring access to new skills and talents, broadening our services to the public. And a lot of skills are transferable. And a lot of people don't volunteer because they believe they don't have the skills. In fact, after a short interview, you can actually tease out the fact that they actually do have transferable skills. It helps challenge us and guide us to make sure we're relevant and makes us a local resource, improves our profile, and obviously enables us to do things we wouldn't have to do or wouldn't be able to do ourselves. That's me. Thank you very much.